Everyone wants whiter teeth and everyone uses toothpaste, so go figure, there's like 1,000 options on the market that call themselves whitening toothpastes. Toothpaste formulas are not all the same, and this video should help you cut through the piles of marketing garbage that exist right now and help you pick the best toothpaste for you. There are literally only two factors that are important when it comes to picking a whitening toothpaste. That is the abrasiveness and the ingredients. Before all that, I realized this is a really long video on toothpaste, and I also noticed that like the last line of the script basically gives you all the information you need, so here it is. For an optimal whitening toothpaste, look for a formula that has 10% nano-hydroxyapatite and brush for at least 2 minutes twice a day. That's it. Now let me get into it. Here's the first truth. So, toothpaste on its own really isn't gonna make your teeth whiter, especially if you're already good at brushing your teeth. So if you're already brushing for 2 minutes twice a day, scrubbing your teeth with any type of different toothpaste really isn't going to make your teeth whiter than they already are. Removing surface stains is important, and it is true that if you're not quite brushing enough, then there's probably room to make your teeth whiter by removing more stains, but the toothpaste in this process is not going to be very important. If you're not brushing for long enough or for often enough, it is possible that the bristles of your teeth, the toothpaste, and your brushing action will remove surface stains. This brings me to the first differentiator within toothpastes, and that is abrasiveness. Toothpaste abrasiveness, or how gritty it is measured with a scale called RDA, or relative dentin abrasivity. Something like that. And this is a lot like how the grit on a sandpaper is measured. The lower the grit number on a sandpaper, the more coarse it is, the more stuff it will remove. The higher the number, the less abrasive it is, and the less material it will remove. RDA is the opposite of that, but it's like the same idea. So this is called a relative test because it is relative to the very specific conditions upon which the test is performed. So that is the bristle type, the pressure being applied by the bristles, the amount of toothpaste used, the duration of the test, and I think that's it. As you can imagine, real world conditions inside your mouth differ greatly between people. And so that depends on how much toothpaste you're using, what toothbrush you're using, how hard you're pressing those bristles against your teeth, how long you're brushing for it. Did I say that already? Did you spit your toothpaste out halfway through? I don't know. There's a lot of different things that give people different results, essentially with the same toothpaste. So I would say when you look at the RDA, take that all with a grain of salt because it isn't necessarily mean that much when you're comparing what one person does to what another person does, because there's a whole lot of factors in there. The other thing I want to point out is people sometimes hear abrasiveness and they get scared. They think they're going to wear down their enamel or something like that. And that isn't the case with toothpaste. The FDA requires that the RDA number or the abrasiveness number is less than 200. So anything that you find on the market is not going to wear down your enamel. Again, this test is called the relative dentin abrasiveness because the enamel is just simply too hard to find any difference between the toothpastes when you're trying to abrade that surface. So if you don't have exposed dentin, if you don't have gum recession, if you don't have gum problems like bleeding gums, anything like that, if you do have those problems, please see your dentist and maybe consider switching your toothpaste to something with a lower abrasiveness. But if you don't have those problems, the abrasiveness of your toothpaste isn't a problem and you should keep using whatever you're using. So you don't know the abrasiveness of your toothpaste? I found this one chart online that shows some of the scores for some of the formulas for most brands, but very, very incomplete given the sheer number, ridiculous number of toothpastes available on the market. I guess what I'm trying to say here is don't get too hung up on the exact number of the toothpaste because if you're not having gum problems, if you don't have exposed dentin, if your dentist says everything's good, you're not brushing too hard, then there's probably nothing wrong with using whatever RDA toothpaste you're using. If you are using a toothpaste with a low RDA score and your teeth kind of still feel slimy, or you feel like you are collecting surface stains, then you may want to switch to a toothpaste with a higher RDA score. With any change, monitor your brushing pressure and your gum health to make sure there aren't any negative consequences of switching. So the question you're probably asking is, will a more abrasive toothpaste make my teeth whiter? And the answer to this is generally no, not really. There's not a lot of science on this. There are not many studies, but again, since there are so many different factors that go into the abrasive forces working on your teeth during brushing, toothpaste is literally just one of those things. So the pressure that you're using is far more important to the overall abrasiveness than the grit of the toothpaste itself. This is one of the reasons why you'll never hear a dentist recommend you using a stiff bristle brush. Stiff bristles are going to do some damage to your gums, not your enamel necessarily, but you have to take all these things into account when you're choosing a toothpaste. So final thoughts on abrasiveness. What are my final thoughts? Yeah, if whatever you're doing is working, it's fine. And you're not gonna gain much by switching to a more abrasive toothpaste. Let me just throw that out there. That's it. No gains from more abrasive toothpastes with whitening. Brush twice a day, 2 minutes each time, you're good. The second factor when it comes to picking a whitening toothpaste is the ingredients. And of course, as you've probably already assumed, this is the more important part. Now that we know the abrasiveness thing isn't that big of a deal when it comes to making your teeth whiter. All right, I'm gonna cover a few whitening ingredients that you've probably seen in a lot of toothpastes, and here's a spoiler alert. There really is only one whitening ingredient that will make your teeth whiter, and it's not the one you're thinking. Let's start off with baking soda. Baking soda is a great ingredient for increasing the pH of your mouth, making it less acidic, but is not great for stain removal. And this is because baking soda is actually a fairly soft particle. This is why it has a really low RDA score. It's actually super low. And it feels gritty in your mouth, but the thing is, the particles themselves are kind of soft, so it's just not all that abrasive, which is fine, but just don't expect it to do a lot of whitening as an ingredient in your toothpaste. All right, peroxide. So peroxide is a fantastic whitening ingredient, just not for toothpaste. Problem with using a peroxide in toothpaste is, number one, the exposure time is not long enough to really get you any whitening results. Two, peroxide is not a great thing to have just hanging out in your oral cavity. It can kill bacteria, and a lot of times it's gonna be killing bacteria that you do not want to kill. So putting peroxide in your mouth regularly is not a good idea. The only toothpaste ingredient that can actually make your teeth whiter is called hydroxyapatite. This is a really interesting calcium material that is actually the same substance, the same material as your enamel. Our bodies release hydroxyapatite in our own saliva as its way to kind of naturally heal our own teeth. So because of that, it makes a great toothpaste ingredient because we're essentially mimicking what our body does naturally. Since hydroxyapatite is biomimetic, it can actually combine with and join and become the surface of your tooth. So what that does is it makes our teeth smoother. It can fill in small gaps and cracks. It can even reverse minor cavities. So it makes our teeth less sensitive, more resistant to cavities, and by making our teeth smoother on the surface, it can actually make them appear whiter. Hydroxyapatite doesn't react with any other toothpaste ingredients. It's completely non-toxic and safe to consume. So there's really no reason that hydroxyapatite shouldn't be in every single toothpaste formula ever created. There, I said it. For a hydroxyapatite toothpaste to be the most effective at remineralizing, it is recommended to use a nanohydroxyapatite or nano-sized particle. This basically just means really, really small. So those little cracks in crevices and fissures and tubules on your tooth are also very small. So you need a very small particle to fill in those holes. Studies show that the nano-sized particle and a 10% concentration work the best for remineralization. All right, here's a quick overview of what we talked about. Toothpaste in combination with your toothbrush and your brushing skills do remove surface stains and make your teeth surfaces whiter. If you're already brushing your teeth for 2 minutes twice a day, then you're not gonna whiten them much more by removing surface stains. Therefore, don't worry too much about the abrasiveness of the toothpaste because pulling that lever and getting a more abrasive toothpaste won't help you. There's a lot to know about toothpaste abrasiveness, but what you need to know really is that if you have any type of gum recession or really sensitive teeth, you should probably be using a low RDA toothpaste or something with low abrasiveness. Well, thousands of toothpastes claim to be whitening toothpastes. They certainly are because they can contribute to removing surface stains, but the only type of toothpaste that will actually whiten the surface of your teeth is a toothpaste that contains nanohydroxyapatite. And lastly, for that magical line I mentioned in the beginning of the video, for optimal whitening, look for a toothpaste that has 10% nanohydroxyapatite and brush for 2 minutes twice a day. I've been working on toothpaste formulas for several years, and we've used a bunch of the information we talked about in this video to come up with 2 toothpastes that are excellent for whitening. Both contain hydroxyapatite and both have a moderate RDA of around 150. One contains fluoride, it's called Fresh Mint. The other does not, it's called Clean Mint. If you want more detailed info on oral care and whitening, please subscribe so you can see our latest videos. If you have any specific questions, please drop them in the comments below and I will try and get you an answer. If you have any questions regarding your own oral health, please go see a dentist and discuss it with them. We do have a few other videos linked around here on similar topics. As always, thanks for watching.